Hello. Welcome to the In Love with Business podcast. This miniseries is titled Chief Sustainability Heroes and is hosted by Professor Paolo Tatiki and Melina Shore from University College London, School of Management. Throughout this series, we will talk to sustainability leaders from different organizations and sectors to learn about their sustainability journeys. We will ask them about their career paths, the challenges they encountered in implementing complex strategies of sustainable transformation, and what inspired them along the way. We will also ask what advice they would offer to aspiring chief sustainability officers. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to this new episode where we have another special guest, Sam Israelit, Partner and Chief Sustainability Officer at Bain & Company. Bain & Company is a very famous consulting firm. They operate globally, founded in 1973. Today, they operate in 65 cities across 40 countries, employing more than 10,000 people. Sam has been with Bain & Company for a while, since 2000, and in 2004, he became a partner in the firm, and as of 2021, he has taken on the role of a Chief Sustainability Officer. Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So I guess from partner to Chief Sustainability Officer, can you tell us a little bit more about that journey?
Yes, absolutely. So, most of my career, I've focused on helping clients with supply chain transformation. So anything from how they manage their suppliers to manufacturing, distribution, logistics, primarily helping them with problems around how do you increase service levels and reduce costs and do those kind of simultaneously. Back in 2015, Bain committed to invest $1 billion of our team capacity over a 10-year period in social impact causes. And we initially started with education and economic development as the two focus areas. And in 2019, we decided to add the environmental pillar to that as well. And they asked me if I would step in and build that practice area and lead it and help it grow. And, for practical purposes, what that means is being responsible for developing relationships with environmental NGOs and helping to deploy our teams on problems around conservation and sustainability. As I was taking that role, they called and said, "There's one more thing we'd like you to do. Could you please manage our carbon neutral status? Don't worry, it takes no time. There's a team in India that does everything. You really won't have to do much." I've never been very good at that. I tend to like to get in and see what's going on with things. And as we started looking at what we were doing, we were the first of our peers and kind of the large consulting firms to go carbon neutral back in 2012. And we really hadn't done much to leverage it. And, we didn't talk about it much. And as, my colleague and I were talking about it, we said we could really do something cool with this. We could develop a carbon management program that we could really be proud of and that we could show to clients as here are best practices in carbon management. And so we embarked on a journey to create a sustainability program at Bain. And over the subsequent few years, started to really implement a number of initiatives that we felt were going to be, really have an impact on Bain's own sustainability. And then in 2021, we decided that we really needed to elevate the role, and we created the role of Chief Sustainability Officer, and the firm asked me to go ahead and fill that role for as our first CSO.
And so at the personal level, why did you say yes? What attracted you to this role, and I guess more broadly to the topic of sustainability and sustainable transformation?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the outdoors and being outdoors in kind of our national parks and hiking and doing things with my family, fishing and skiing and being outside. And it's something we've watched as, land kind of gets taken over for production or, offshore drilling and things like that. We felt like we really needed to do something to preserve kind of nature here, around the world. And so it's always been important to me. I think more importantly, we live in California, and on the side, I'm a farmer. I have a ranch in Central Coast region of California, and when you see what's happening with climate, whether it's the wildfires or drought, it really is having an impact on people's lives. And we as Bain and Company, I feel like we need to do our part. And we're not a particularly high emitting organization relative to many of our clients. The impact of our emissions are relatively small, but it's something that we have an obligation to be a good corporate citizen, and so we need to do our part. At the same time, we need to continue to work with our clients on these types of issues, because that's by far and away the biggest impact we can have. And so, for us to be credible with clients, we need to also be doing it ourselves. And so I really, felt this was a good opportunity for me to have an impact. And that's the primary reason I agreed to take on the role.
Fantastic. Melina, I know you have questions for Sam.
Sure. Actually, before I go into my next question, you mentioned how you're also a farmer. And when we were doing our research, we saw that you were previously the president of the California Coast Olive Growers. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and maybe even how that experience has shaped your own role and experience as a CSO?
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife and I purchased an olive ranch in Central Coast region of California back in 2014. And, it's something we've always liked, cooking and food, and it's something we thought we would like to try. And when we found it, we got involved. We really enjoyed the whole process of raising the trees, harvesting the fruit, producing the oil, and selling it. And people really enjoyed it. And so we produce 3 different varieties of kind of award-winning olive oil, very super premium extra virgin olive oil. And one of the things that we learned, kind of when we started, is we didn't know a lot. And so we had to learn more. And the local community of olive producers worked together to really kind of help support the industry and, help new growers get in and be successful. And so there was an organization there called the Central Coast Olive Growers that I joined. And it was really farmers helping farmers. And so over a couple of years of being involved there was a leadership change, and they asked for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And it was something just really there to both promote Central Coast olive oil as well as helping other producers to be successful. I think the biggest lessons I learned there really were around just the impact of kind of small farmers, and, how important the environment, and kind of more importantly, climate is to a small farmer, right? Most of our farmers are irrigating, but, the drought has had significant impact on small farmers in California. And it's something that they're wrestling with every day. So,
and I guess that's a kind of very common mistake of the public, that they think that climate change is an environmental problem, while it is not only an environmental problem, it's also a very big social problem.
Yes, it affects many people's livelihood. And so, we need to do what we can to get ourselves on the right trajectory around carbon emissions.
Right. So you're definitely seeing the impacts firsthand.
And I think, Sam, we need to meet outside the podcast, because you mentioned the 3 things that really sound with me. So I fish, I love skiing, and I also produce my own olive oil. So
oh, do you? Excellent. Yes, we'll have to get together for a tasting.
We share many hobbies.
Yes,
you can compare notes.
That's right. Well, I'd love to try it.
So just going back to the role of the Chief Sustainability Officer, how would you describe or define the role of a Chief Sustainability Officer today, or maybe how it's even evolved over the years?
Yeah, to me, the Chief Sustainability Officer is the person who is there to represent the lens of sustainability on the company's strategy and operations. And, that's the person who's primary focus is always to advocate for the, being responsible, understanding how you can both take advantage of opportunities around kind of decarbonization, as well as what the risks of climate change are and our impact on the environment. And, every function really is advocating for their particular, functions priorities in an overall strategy. The chief sustainability officer is there to ask questions and to work to collaborate across the organization to make sure that the enterprise is actually, delivering in a sustainable way. So I think its primary purpose is to be an advocate for, the being a sustainable organization, and they're the kind of last defense against ignoring sustainability in corporate decision making.
Right. Okay.
And I would like to ask you something about the type of skills that modern CEOs should be able to demonstrate in terms of soft skills, hard skills. The profession of CEO is relatively new in many ways, and I guess education with a focus on sustainability again is quite recent. So many CSOs today, many people that we are interviewing, they don't have a degree in sustainability. They come from a range of different experiences and different paths in education. So in your opinion, based on your own experience, based on the kind of interaction that you had with CSOs in industry, what are the critical skills there in terms of both hard and soft?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think there are a couple that come to mind as really important that differentiates this type of a role. First and foremost, you have to be able to collaborate across the business, right? The chief sustainability officer is typically does not have decision-making authority on any of the kind of primary operations of the business. And so, in order to get things done, you have to work across the other functional leader or with the other functional leaders. And so the ability to collaborate effectively in an organization is, I think, one of the biggest priorities, because without that, you really aren't going to get a lot done. I think the second big, really important skill is that, the chief sustainability officer can't just be focused on, sustainability or decarbonization or the issues related to sustainability and responsibility. They really need to understand how the core business works. And, the reason for that is because a lot of these decisions that we're making around decarbonization have to be made in the context of the corporation's strategy and why you're doing things. The rest of the organization is really not going to take you as seriously as they should, because you can't put it into context for them. You can't understand the trade-offs well. So you really have to have a good understanding of the business and how it operates. And so those are two. And then I think the third area is really, this industry is evolving very, very quickly. And regulations are changing, technologies are changing. There's a lot of innovation in kind of sustainability right now. And I think it's really important that a chief sustainability officer be able to continue to educate themselves on, the issues and the trends and the new developments in sustainability, because this is a learning journey. I didn't start out to become a chief sustainability officer. That was not my objective. I kind of worked my way into the role. But I think a lot of the reasons it happened were because I understand kind of how we operate as a business. And I was able to engage with the stakeholders in a way that said, we should take these issues seriously and we should consider what we should do with, in light of them. So I think those are the three big kind of first areas that come to mind.
Okay. You mentioned there how the industry is evolving really quickly and regulations are it's hard to keep up almost. So what advice or tips do you have for people who are trying to keep up with the latest regulations? Like how do you, how do you educate yourself in these areas?
There's no one easy place to go for everything. I spend a lot of time online at different websites in sustainability, whether that's some of the organizations that are driving, some of the evolution of regulations. So things like the Science-Based Targets Initiative and, CDP and others who are regularly putting out kind of publications on current events and kind of changes that are upcoming. Some of the government organizations, I'm particularly right now, one of our biggest focus areas is around CSRD and the implementation of that in the EU. This is something we're having to learn about, the new California regulations. And so I spend a lot of time kind of researching those, whether it's through other organizations that are analyzing those regulations or from the regulatory bodies themselves. I talk to a lot of people, and I think that's something that's important is networking. A company can't do this on their own. And
Right.
so they need to be speaking to outside experts, whether that's in specific technologies or consultants who work on specific processes, to understand what the latest trends are. And I spend a lot of time looking at other companies' sustainability reports and impact reports, understanding what they're doing, and trying to draw out best practices. And then last is just talking to my peers. There are a number of chief sustainability officers in other organizations, and it's a relatively supportive group. And many of us are facing the same challenges and benefit from talking to each other. So a CSO shouldn't be trying to do this on their own.
And Sam, I believe in the last 12 months, we have seen like a growing debate on the topic of where the CSO should sit in an organization. And there was an interesting article published by a colleague at our business school during the summer in the Arab Business Review, suggesting that the CSO should report, for example, to CFOs. And the rationale was that more and more sustainability is a topic of interest for investors, and CSOs are involved in investor relations and roadshows and all that. Now, what is your point of view on this? Because again, you have experience in many industries. Do you see like a standard approach, or do you recognize that the CSO could sit in different places depending on the industry and the governance of the company and other factors?
Yeah, there's no one right answer. I have my perspective is that there is a logical place that the whole function should sit. But I think you could put it in a number of places. Where I usually see it is one in the finance organization. That's clearly one that's a dominant trend. The second area that I see it often is in the communications or marketing organization, because they're viewing this as we are trying to tell a story and we need to message, and this is part of our brand. And so it really needs to be in marketing and communications. And then the third place is in legal. And so if it's a highly regulated industry, or it's an area where you're really doing this for regulatory reasons, I think, or compliance reasons, I think that could make sense as well. Personally, I believe it should be in the finance organization.
Do you think this is also kind of linked to the maturity level of the organization? So if they see sustainability as a compliance topic, not necessarily because it is truly about compliance, but is simply because where they are in terms of thinking, that's how it is organized, or not?
Yes, I think there is when companies start on these types of journeys, a lot of times it's someone in the organization who kind of gets tapped to go do it. They could be anywhere. It could be in operations, could be in marketing, could be in compliance. I think when they start, that's fine. They're getting started, get it up and running. As they learn the strategic importance of sustainability to their business, it can evolve to a new location. When we started, my original team was sitting in the social impact function. And so, because that's where I was kind of working on the environmental pillar, and I just put my team with me, and that's really where we ran it. As we got more sophisticated, and as I started looking at the trends, I feel like it needed to shift into the finance organization. There were a couple of places we could have put it, but as I see some of the trends around reporting, reporting is one big one, and so we report to both CDP and EcoVadis, as well as a number of other government organizations. The need for audits and increasing regulation around the need for limited assurance, or in some cases moving to reasonable assurance. And the amount of investment you're making, that's you really do have to have good impact results assessments. All those three really sound a lot like finance. Finance is already doing this, and so we should actually start to merge those over time. So I believe that what you're going to see in the next probably 3 to 5 years is that more and more organizations are going to be shifting these processes into the finance function because of the parallels between things like audits and the audits and compliance that you have to do.
This makes a lot of sense to me. Can you tell us a little bit more about the organization of your team at Bain? So, how big it is, what they do, how sustainability is organized inside the team?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 15 people in our organization. They are primarily there are a couple of us. There are three of us here in the U.S. Who are working as kind of the leadership of the team, and then we have, by our definition, three teams of people based in our capability center in India. And so these are dedicated full time. And we really divide the functions up into two sides. One is kind of reporting and, a lot of our regulatory work. And the other side of it is around kind of driving our sustainability initiatives. And so, all of our activities kind of fall into those two areas. I think in both of our leadership team, both of the people here in the U.S. report into the finance function. As a partner at Bain, I kind of report into our office structure, but I'm dotted line in there as well. The activities we break into really 4 areas that we perform. The first of those is kind of measurement and target setting. And so, that group's really going out and calculating our footprint. They're helping work through what are the right targets for the firm, and how can we really start to kind of make sure we're measuring things appropriately. The second is driving our initiatives to drive decarbonization at Bain. And so this is where we're implementing a lot of the initiatives we have to reduce our footprint. The third area is our sourcing of offsets. And so we did make a commitment to be 100% carbon net negative. And so every year. And so what that means is we will buy very high quality carbon removal offsets every year in excess of our footprint, so that it will start to address our carbon legacy. This is something that was important to our stakeholders. And so we've implemented a policy that's what we will do every year. And we go through a very detailed diligence process to source the offsets we have. And the last area is around reporting. And this is where we do not only the type of reporting you do to CDP and EcoVadis, but it also is where we do our client reporting. So we one of the initiatives we have is we want to be able to tell our clients, here is the impact we're having on your carbon footprint as a supplier. And so that's where we house that as well.
Okay.
Very interesting.
That's great. So you touched on a number of initiatives there that you have in place. Can you share with us maybe just one particular initiative that's been very successful that you've been proud to help implement across the organization?
Yeah, that'd be great. I think one we've recently completed in the last 12 months was our carbon budgeting process. We have implemented carbon budgets in the firm for all internal functions and practice areas. And, this is something, it took us probably about 9 months to complete. So it was a very involved process. We engaged with, I think it was probably 60 or 70 people, leaders across the firm, to engage them in the process. And what we did was really designed a process where in July, when everyone gets their financial budget package and they have to start putting together their financial plan, there's also a template in there for them to develop their carbon plan. And so, the two have to synchronize, so that if you say you're going to travel this much from a financial perspective, you also have to have the appropriate carbon allocation there. And we went through a process of engaging each of the individual function leaders to walk through what was their 2019 baseline carbon, what they think the plan is going to be for the next year. And for this year, as we were doing this for our 2023 year. And, what are the different levers they could pull to actually reduce their emissions? And, is everything from, do you actually need to have a global meeting, or could you do it as a local meeting? or could you do it virtually? All the way through to, can you change the meeting cadence so that you maybe don't meet as frequently in person, or can you parallel meetings with other meetings so that, for example, our worldwide partner meeting is one of our, very high carbon emissions events of the year. And rather than have separate practice meetings for a, part where partners get together to discuss a practice area like consumer products or performance improvement, they'll meet at the partner meeting instead, and we'll add an extra day there so that you'll avoid the trip. And, so working through, pretty much all of our functions, whether that was recruiting, training, everything, really understanding what carbon do we really think we're going to emit, and, what's the right model, given a set of guidelines. And, we want to make sure we don't impact the business in a negative way. And so how can we actually achieve the business's objectives and do it in a lower carbon way? And we've rolled that out. Everyone has a carbon budget. There's a dashboard they can go to that says, for my functional area or my practice area, how much carbon have I emitted this year? And, they can track that to a monthly level. So we update it monthly. And, I think the reason it's really good, going through the process got people talking about carbon emissions and how they actually impact emissions, and their decisions impact that. And that really,
I think this is very powerful because, it basically becomes like a daily topic. It becomes part of a normal business. We need to, address what our footprint is. We need to control it. And I love it because it's I guess, really a wonderful also story for your clients. It's a very inspiring, way of working. It's kind of walking the talk here. So
yes. Well, and it ties to what we said earlier. It ties in with the finance function as well, because now you get a financial update, you get a carbon update as well. And I think the biggest impact has been what you said. It's getting people to talk about it. And while it might not be daily, it's at least, monthly that they're getting a reminder, I need to be thinking about carbon.
Yeah. So in addition to talking about it, they're thinking about it at such a detailed level. So it's changing mindsets, which ultimately, I guess, also influences the culture of the company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And the impact was significant. I mean, just those discussions led to about a 35% reduction in our internal travel. And, without a significant impact on the, culture of the firm or what we were trying to accomplish. And, we expect to continue to use these to manage our footprint going forward. We did put in place the process for a carbon tax. So if we haven't had to face this situation yet, but it is possible that if someone were to exceed their carbon budget, then they would be assessed a carbon tax based on the overage, and we use the price of sustainable aviation fuel as the carbon fee for that. And so they'd effectively have to offset that cost as part of their operations.
Okay. Well, that's a great initiative. And I think that probably leads into the next question about how can you engage employees across the organization? So, whether employees, they may not have sustainability in their job title or their functions per se, but how can you engage them to contribute and to be part of the sustainability agenda? And I think that the budget you just shared with us is one example. But
if we can answer the question, what is your experience? Do you see that it's easier to engage, for example, the younger generations, or not really?
I wouldn't necessarily. It's definitely an important topic to the younger generations. Our more junior people, are very passionate about a number of different initiatives, and the environment is one of them. And so, they are continually pushing us to, do better, be a good corporate citizen, to make sure that we're managing our impact appropriately. And I get regular kind of calls from people or emails from our teams around the world saying, here's an idea I've got, what can we do? And, I think that's a really important way to engage them, is being open to those discussions and reaching out and working with some of their kind of self-driven organizations. Like we have green teams in every office, which are basically grassroots groups of people who want to work on sustainability in their particular local office. And one of the things I really tried to do early on was engage with those teams to understand what was important to them and how we should focus in those areas. But I think the bigger challenge is that, while the employees are passionate and enthusiastic in what they're doing, their impact in decision making on the emissions of the firm are actually relatively small. Right. It's a lot of if you look at the major kind of emissions of an organization, it comes down to things like, what are you manufacturing in your manufacturing runs, and, what your travel, for us, it's travel footprint, and, how we choose to select carriers, and what are our policies around travel. Or another big one for us is our supply chain. It's what we buy. And, as a professional services firm, we don't build anything. And so our emissions are a little different than other companies. And so our supply chain is a really important part. And, what that says is you have to engage the people who make decisions around those emissions, follow them. We say in our normal client work, we say, follow the money. Well, in this case, follow the carbon. And where are the biggest buckets of emissions, and what are the activities you can do to reduce them? And a lot of times that's working with the people at the front lines in those functions, and really reaching out and giving them the data they need to make good decisions. People will naturally want to do the right thing, but they don't always know what that is, and they don't always have the data to actually make those decisions in the right way. So how can you give them information and tools to do that? And so that's why you would engage someone in the procurement function to actually start to educate them on the importance of decarbonization and what they can do and how their decisions affect our footprint. And then you have to work with the leadership team in that function to really, start to realign the decision criteria they use around supplier decisions or things like that.
And Sam, I'm sure in the audience of our show there is someone who is aspiring one day to cover a similar role to yours, CSO in a prestigious organization, driving important change. What is your advice to them?
Yeah. What I tell people is a couple of things. One is start where you are, right? If you are in a line role somewhere, and, whether it's in operations or in finance or procurement or another part of the organization, start to look for opportunities to implement these types of initiatives in your function, right? Let's, start at the groundwork. And as you have success in those initiatives, you can build on them and expand them. That type of experience is actually what you need to get things done in big companies, right? And so, that's invaluable for people proving that this can be done, and that can be done successfully. That's going to be really important to you later on. I would say that people really should, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning, to be effective as a chief sustainability officer, you have to understand how the business runs. And so, I get it. There's a lot of people with aspiration and, really trying to do the right thing. But if you don't understand how the business runs, you're not going to be successful. And so, make sure that you're spending time to not only look at sustainability, but also think about strategy and operations of the organization you're in. And fold those together, because there are both risks and opportunities you need to take advantage of. And if you're the person that brings those up and drives them, you're viewed as the one successful. You'll gain credibility.
That's great.
Super, Sam. It was really a pleasure to have you in our show, and congratulations for the great work you are doing at Bain. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this discussion, we invite you to like and share this episode on your social media. Enjoy the rest of your day.